Imagine a country so rich that the average person there earns more than $120,000 per year. A place filled with luxury skyscrapers, artificial islands, and some of the most expensive shopping malls on Earth. A country that hosted the biggest sporting event in the world, the FIFA World Cup. That country is Qatar. But here's the strange part. Just a few decades ago, Qatar was almost nothing. No giant cities, no global influence, no massive wealth. Just a small desert peninsula in the Persian Gulf, where people struggled to survive on fishing and pearl diving. So the real question is not how rich Qatar is today. The real question is, how did one of the poorest places in the Middle East become one of the richest countries on Earth? And why do some of its powerful neighbors still see it as a threat? The story begins more than a century ago. In 1916, Qatar signed a protection treaty with Britain. At that time, Britain controlled large parts of the Gulf region. The deal was simple. Britain would protect Qatar from external threats, and in return, Qatar would remain under British influence. Back then, Qatar had almost no strategic value. It was a hot, dry desert with very little economic activity. Most people survived by diving for pearls in the Gulf waters. But everything changed in 1940. That was the year oil was discovered in Qatar. At first, this seemed like the turning point. Oil had already transformed other Gulf countries. But in Qatar's case, the impact was limited. The oil reserves were relatively small compared to neighbors like Saudi Arabia, so Qatar remained a minor player in the region. Then in the 1970s, something happened that would quietly change the country's destiny. Geologists discovered something massive beneath the waters north of Qatar. A gigantic natural gas reserve. Today we know it as the North Field, the largest natural gas field on the planet. But here's the twist. At that time, natural gas was almost useless. Unlike oil, gas couldn't easily be transported across oceans. It required pipelines. And Qatar was far away from major energy markets. So for years, this enormous resource remained largely untouched. But in 1995, Qatar's history took a dramatic turn. Crown Prince Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani overthrew his own father in a bloodless coup and became the new ruler of Qatar. And he had a very different vision. He believed Qatar's future depended on one thing: gas. Instead of ignoring it, he decided to build an entire economy around it. But there was a massive problem. Gas could not be easily exported to distant countries. So Qatar invested billions into a revolutionary technology: liquefied natural gas, or LNG. This process cools natural gas to around -162 degrees Celsius, turning it into liquid. Once in liquid form, gas can be transported in specialized ships anywhere in the world. This single decision changed everything. Suddenly, Qatar could sell energy not just to nearby countries, but to the entire planet. Japan, China, South Korea, India, Europe. Within a few years, billions of dollars started flowing into the country. But this is where many resource-rich countries fail. Having natural resources doesn't guarantee success. Countries like Venezuela and Angola also earned massive energy revenues. But corruption and mismanagement destroyed much of that wealth. Qatar took a different path. In 2005, the government created a sovereign wealth fund called the Qatar Investment Authority. Its job was simple: take the profits from gas and invest them across the world. Today, Qatar owns pieces of some of the most valuable assets on Earth. Luxury hotels in London, skyscrapers in New York, major stakes in global companies, banks, airports, infrastructure. Instead of relying only on energy exports, Qatar began building wealth everywhere. But money alone doesn't create influence. For that, Qatar built something even more powerful: media. In 1996, the country launched a global news network called Al Jazeera. Within a few years, it became one of the most influential media platforms in the Middle East. For the first time, a small Gulf country had the ability to shape regional narratives. And that didn't make everyone happy, especially Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. Tensions between Qatar and its neighbors slowly grew. The situation exploded in 2017. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, and Egypt suddenly imposed a blockade on Qatar. They closed borders, cut diplomatic ties, and tried to isolate the country. One of their main demands: shut down Al Jazeera. But something unexpected happened. Instead of collapsing, Qatar adapted. It strengthened ties with Turkey and Iran. It expanded trade routes, and thanks to its massive gas exports, the economy remained strong. In fact, Qatar's global importance only increased. Then came another global crisis: the war between Russia and Ukraine. For decades, Europe relied heavily on Russian gas. But when supplies were disrupted, European countries urgently needed alternatives. And once again, Qatar became crucial, because when it comes to exporting liquefied natural gas, Qatar is one of the most powerful suppliers in the world. This means that even in a future where oil demand declines, natural gas will likely remain essential for electricity and industry. And Qatar sits on one of the largest gas reserves ever discovered. Today, the country earns tens of billions of dollars every year from energy exports. Cities continue to grow, its global investments continue to expand, and its influence continues to rise. But Qatar's story also raises an uncomfortable question. Because the wealth of this tiny country is built largely by millions of migrant workers from South Asia, people from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Nepal make up the majority of the workforce. They build the skyscrapers, they construct the stadiums, they keep the economy running, yet many of them live far from their families, working long hours in extreme heat. So behind the luxury and wealth, there is also a complicated reality. And maybe that is the biggest lesson of Qatar. Natural resources can create wealth, but leadership, strategy, and global vision decide whether that wealth lasts. A small desert peninsula, once ignored by the world, managed to turn gas beneath the sea into one of the richest economies on Earth. And if current trends continue, Qatar's influence may grow even stronger in the decades ahead, because sometimes the most powerful countries are not the largest ones, but the ones that understand how to turn opportunity into strategy.